So also the laying on of hands is not religious. And and even as I was thinking through this and I did a little bit of research, I didn't include it in here, but most of the world religions include some form of laying on of hands. And many, yeah, so it's not this religious thing. It's not just only this group does it, this group does it. It is a concept that comes from the kingdom and it has its place, but we have to make sure that we're not approaching laying on the hands with these religious concepts, with these religious blinders, making sure that we have the right idea. Let me not say the right idea, but the precept is from Elohim and not from these religious settings. And even before we move on, one thing that I do want to mention, what's so important about making sure that we have a right understanding of the laying on the hands, because for one, like I mentioned earlier, with it being orderly, many people are not just physically laying hands where there shouldn't be, but many people are laying hands on people when they shouldn't be laying hands. Some people are laying hands and some people are allowing hands to be laid on them when they shouldn't either, because you can unintentionally give permission for a law to operate in your life, and that law does not need to be operating. See, even the demons and false prophets have full knowledge of the power and the laws that govern laying on the hands, so they operate that as well. So it's important to make sure that, yes, you're not allowing everybody else to lay hands on you. You making sure that you're only laying hands where you need to be laying hands. And that all goes back to making sure that we're doing things orderly, right? So let's move on to our next session, next point with it, which is the law of transference. And so, like I mentioned earlier, many times there's this idea that, well, we've heard people say, well, if I lay hands on you, you'll get healed. Well, that may be true. That may be true that if you lay hands on someone, they will be healed. But like I mentioned earlier, it's not all about the person who's laying the hands. See, there's a process that takes place. And what we have here is called the law of transference. And so when we lay hands, there is something that's being transferred. Whether, like I know I keep mentioning healing and power, but yes, those things have to have permission to be received. You can, just like Elohim does not force himself on anyone. He does not force you to get saved. He does not receive salvation, I should say that. He does not force you to obey him. He does not force you to do anything. He's not going to override your will. And so the same thing is with the laying on of hands. If you don't receive, then you don't receive. So if you are sick and a person who is spirit-filled, anointed, they can lay hands on you and not get healed. It may not be the person who laid the hands. It may be you. It may be you rejecting. It may be you not it may be your belief system. It may be doubt. So we definitely have to, that's why it's so important. You can't put all the pressure, I don't want to say pressure, but all the responsibility on the person that's laying hands, when there's also responsibility of the person who the hand is being laid on to receive, to operate, to make sure that they're not rejecting what's going forth. So transference, the law of transference requires permission.